Hello, everyone, and welcome to Movie Goodness, where we examine life through cinema here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and this, ladies and gentlemen, is in memoriam. It's a remembrance, a celebration of life, if you will, for one Carlos Ray Norris, also known to the general public as Chuck Norris, the great action star from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and uh, whether it was on the big screen or straight to video or later on in life on television, and even recently on the internet with the Chuck Norris memes. He has been a pop culture icon my entire life. I can't remember a time when Chuck Norris wasn't a thing, and now it has officially come to an end when Chuck Norris passed away on March the 19th, 2026, at the ripe young age of 86 years old. I think it's safe to say he lived a full life. Uh, and we're gonna go through his career, some of his life story, and not so much his political views and whatnot, because personally, I didn't agree with his political views, and it would be hypocritical of me to sit here and celebrate the things that I just didn't agree with. But what I did agree with in his life was his movies. The one thing that drew not just me, but millions of others around the world to him. The fact that he just captivated so many people with all of the films. I mean, you got to understand, there was an era of time when there was just Chuck Norris, bruh. He was the bee's knees. Yeah, in the 80s, you had the emergence of the Sly Stallones and Arnold Schwarzeneggers and Dolph Lundgrens and all of these different action stars, the Bruce Willis and so on and so forth. But Chuck Norris was the tough. You always looked at Chuck Norris as being the toughest of them all. Like he could take all of them out, and he wasn't the biggest out of that group, But Chuck, that's why those memes that were going around that were so popular a few years back on social media, you laughed at him, but it was like, yeah, it's Chuck Norris, man. Chuck Norris, Chuck Norris would take anyone out, and I believed it. He knew so many forms of martial art. He was a black belt in so many forms of martial arts. I finally believed that there was nobody walking God's green earth that could take him out. That was my belief, other than Bruce Lee, who gave Chuck Norris his start back in 1972. But that's neither here nor there. So without further ado, let's look back at the life and career of Chuck Norris, born March the 10th of 1940 to March the 19th of 2026. Yes, he had just made a birthday, just turned 86 years old. He, as I said before, a martial artist, a actor, a screenwriter, an author. Some of the martial arts that he was a black belt in, of course, karate, taekwondo, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, judo, um, and the list goes on what he actually practiced. But those he had black belt in those martial arts. He served in the United States Air Force. He won numerous martial arts championships. Later found his own discipline, Chang Chang Kung Do or Chang Chung Do. I believe that's how you say it. Chuck Norris, he began working in Hollywood as a martial arts instructor for numerous celebrities in Hollywood before he made his screen debut in a small role in 1968 in the film The Wrecking Crew. His fellow friend and martial artist, Bruce Lee, invited him to play one of the main villains in The Way of the Dragon in 1972. And that just catapulted him to the stratosphere at that point. Chuck Norris continued acting after his friend and fellow actor Steve McQueen told him, "Hey, you need to take this more seriously." He was also one of his, I think, an instructor for Steve McQueen, and you're like, "Yeah, you should take this more seriously. You might be somebody." So thank you, Steve McQueen, for giving him that advice. Chuck Norris took the starring role in the action film Breaker Breaker back in 1977, which turned up a pretty good profit around that time. His second lead, Good Guys Wear Black, in 1978, became a hit, and he soon became a popular action film star from that point on. Chuck Norris went on to headline a series of commercially successful independent action and martial art films. A Force of One in 1979, The Octagon in 1980, An Eye for an Eye in 81, which elevated him to an international superstar. He later starred in a studio production of Silent Rage, which is my favorite Chuck Norris movie. That was back in 1982. Forced Vengeance, also in 1982, and my second favorite Chuck Norris movie, Lone Wolf McQuade, which my dad, I think that was probably my dad's favorite Chuck Norris movie because he always watched it. I don't care what was on, he stopped and watched Lone Wolf McQuade, and uh, I don't know, I can recite that movie so much. I love that movie. It's probably my favorite, to be honest with you, but it's something about Silent Rage that it was unique for action films around that time to me, because it was a quasi horror film too. You know, it was a science fiction horror action film where Chuck Norris, he played the sheriff, of course, and he stopped this I think a mentally ill man who goes on this rampage, and then he for reasons, the mentally ill man got granted this medical experiment that made him indestructible, and so Chuck Norris had to take on this thing. It was like Chuck Norris versus Jason Voorhees or something like that. It's the most whacked out wild concept, and I absolutely loved it. But Lone Wolf McQuade gave it a run for his money. I think that was like the deepest story wise and acting wise from Chuck Norris. Lone Wolf McQuade. I think David Carradine was the villain in that film. It was really, really good. Moving on, his success led to Cannon Films, which was a prominent film studio back in the 80s that just shelled out these calling them low budget would be nice, but low budget action films in the 80s. They signed him to a multi-picture deal, which began with Missing in Action back in 1984, which launched a trilogy and cemented his status as the company's leading star throughout the 1980s. His work during this period included Invasion USA in 1985, The Delta Force in 1986, Firewalker in 1986. Outside of Cannon, he also starred in Code of Silence in 1985, which is regarded as one of his strongest films. I did like Code of Silence as well. Code of Silence was directed by Andrew Davis, who went on a few years later to direct Harrison Ford in The Fugitive, and you can feel that the bones of that being created in Code of Silence. But Code of Silence had kind of a Dirty Harry type feel to it, and it just felt like a more grounded movie, but still had the Chuck Norris action that you come to expect from his films. So it was probably the best put together film. It's probably his best film, but I'm just going, my favorites were the ones I mentioned earlier. So that's probably more of a nostalgia thing. But Yeah, I will give Code of Silence its due. Um, in the 90s, Chuck Norris played the title role in the long-running CBS series Walker, Texas Ranger, which ran from 1993 to 2001. That show was like a mainstay on my dad's television. Whenever you went by my dad's house during that period of time, after it hit syndication, that's all he watched. It was westerns and Walker, Texas Ranger. Those are the only things he watched. I'm telling you, up to the end. Probably the last thing he ever watched before he passed on was Walker, Texas Ranger. That's all he watched. Ironically, they were born the same year. My dad was born in 1940, and so maybe they had a connection. But my God, that show ran forever, and it still do. I still catch it on certain channels in syndication. Walker, Texas Ranger is like a mainstay, even to the point they made a reboot on the CW a few years ago, a couple of years. I don't know if it's still on or not, but I watched one episode. Actually, that's a lie. I watched maybe half of an episode and I couldn't do it. You can't have Walker Texas Ranger without Chuck Norris. It just doesn't fit. That's like making the Matrix without Keanu Reeves. It just doesn't work. And that's Chuck's, man. That's Chuck's. Uh, the last major film role he ever appeared in was in 2012, and that was The Expendables 2. And it was a brief role, but it was a poignant role. It was good to see him mix it up with the rest of those 80s action stars. Just for the brief time he was there, he didn't do any kicking and martial arts at that point because he was well in his what 60s, maybe early 70s. Well, when that movie shot, but hey, man, he fired that gun like it was nobody's business, and that was the last film role, major film role that he was a part of. Now, beyond the acting, Chuck Norris became a best-selling author of books on martial arts, on exercise, conservative politics, Christian Western fiction, self-help books, and a biography, as well as he wrote a regular column for the WorldNet Daily. He appeared on numerous commercials, including the long-time spokesperson for Total Fitness or Total Gym. I remember those commercials. I think those commercials still come on. Because it's rare that I watch normal television. This day and age, all we do is stream everything and watch YouTube and everything else. When you watch normal, regular television, it's like weird. But whenever I do watch it, I think I did see a commercial not too long ago with Chuck Norris on it for Total Gym. In 2005, Chuck Norris became the subject of the Chuck Norris facts, the internet meme craze that took place during that time, and which hilariously showed his toughness and ability. And ironically, some celebrities would frown upon this. They feel like you taking jabs at them, and they don't too much appreciate that. But Chuck Norris, hey, he was cool with it. I think I read a quote somewhere where he said he found them just as hilarious as we did. So it's good that he can laugh at himself. You know what I'm saying? That was cool of him to do. He endorsed a variety of products that incorporated it, and the phenomenon inspired multiple books, 2 video games, and several talk show appearances. Chuck Norris, who, as I mentioned earlier, he was born Carlos Ray Norris back in 1940 in Ryan, Oklahoma. And when he turned 18 in 1958, Chuck Norris joined the U.S. Air Force. as an air policeman and was stationed in South Korea. There he inquired the name Chuck, and being trained in Tang Sudo or Tang Sundo, that form of martial arts. After returning to the United States, he continued serving in the Air Force in California in August of 1962. He was discharged from the Air Force with the rank of Airman First Class. While applying to become a policeman in California, he opened a martial arts studio and began competing in tournaments. Chuck Norris lost his first two competitions, both by decision. He continued to improve, eventually defeating the same fighters that defeated him in his first two bouts, and won the 1967 karate tournament after defeating 7 opponents. Chuck would later on go on to compete in several other karate tournaments, winning a few and losing a few as well. But while competing, Chuck Norris met Bruce Lee, who at the time was known for his role in the Green Hornet, and the two developed a friendship as well as training and working relationship as well. In 1972, Chuck Norris acted with Bruce Lee in playing the nemesis in the widely acclaimed martial arts movie Way of the Dragon, which was retitled around that time to Return of the Dragon in the United States. The film grossed over $5.3 million in the Hong Kong box office, beating the previous record set by Bruce Lee's own film Big Boss and Fist of Fury, making it the highest grossing film in 1972 in Hong Kong. The Way of the Dragon went on to gross an estimated $130 million worldwide. The film is credited for launching him into superstardom. Let's run through the filmography of the late great Chuck Norris. It begins in 1968 with The Wrecking Crew. In 1972, The Way of the Dragon. 1973, The Student Teachers. 1974, Yellow-Faced Tiger. 1977, Breaker. In 78, Good Guys Wear Black. In 79, A Force of One. In 1980, The Octagon. In 1981, An Eye for an Eye. In 1982, Silent Rage. Also in 1982, Forced Vengeance. In 83, Lone Wolf McQuade. In 1984, Missing in Action. In 1985, Missing in Action 2, The Beginning. And also in 1985, Code of Silence and Invasion USA. In 1986, The Delta Force. Also in 1986, Firewalker. In 1988, Missing in Action 3. Also in 1988, Hero in the Terror. In 1990, Delta Force 2. 91, The Hitman. 92, Sidekicks. In 94, Hellbound. 1995, Top Dog. 96, Forest Warrior. In 2003, Bells of Innocence. In 2004, Dodgeball, the true underdog story, where he plays himself. He was the judge, or the judge at that dodgeball competition. Just the most random cameo of all time. Also in 2004, Birdie and Boogie. In 2005, The Cutter. In 2012, The Expendables 2. In 2017, The Green Frog. In 2024, Agent Recon. And just this year, in 2026, Zombie Plane, and that film is yet to be released. That's a action comedy zombie movie that stars Vanilla Ice along with Chuck Norris. So that should be interesting. That's it for his film side. But in television, we all know Walker, Texas Ranger, which started in 1993 on to 2001. But he's made appearances on other shows as well. Just recently, Hawaii Five O, that was back in 2020. The Goldbirds, as well as Yes Dear, Martial Law, Sons of Thunder. He's popped up in a lot of things. But Chuck Norris passed away March the 19th, 2026, at the age of 86 years old. He was hospitalized in Hawaii after experiencing a medical emergency. He died at that hospital. His family announced his death the following day on the 20th. He leaves behind his wife, his second wife, of what, 26 years, 27 years, and 5 children, along with 13 grandchildren, and that's as of 2017. I couldn't find anything to say that it was more than that. But my condolences go out to the Norris family and the loss of their patriarch, Mr. Chuck Norris, and to all of the fans around the world who love love and adore Mr. Norris, man. He was a mainstay in pop culture, as I said earlier. He you can't say 80s action without Chuck Norris, you know. He was the man. He really was the man. All of his movies. It's one thing you can say about Chuck Norris. His movies really didn't change. There wasn't really no big difference about his movies. He didn't try to be anything other than what he was. You didn't see Chuck Norris in a drama. He did pop up in a couple of comedies, but it wasn't him being. He was more the serious man, the straight man. If anything, it was a movie. Which one? Which one was that? I think it was Firewalker with Louis Gossett Jr. Who they were like this buddy deal, treasure hunters. That was a comedy, but it wasn't goofball comedy. You know, I actually liked that movie. I liked all of his movies because they were what they were. If you liked one, you liked them all. There was no deviation from who he is. He stayed in his lane. he honestly stayed in his lane. He didn't try to do these heartfelt dramas. He didn't go after the Forrest Gump roles and stuff like that. He knew what he was, and what he was a tough action star who would kick your behind. So, yeah, man, 2026 has taken another one. We're not even out of March yet. We're not even out the first quarter of the year, and we've gotten some big, heavy losses in 2026, man. 2026 need to pump the brakes. Just slow down. Slow down and relax. You know, we haven't gotten over the first one yet, and we're already like, I don't know, about 8 or 9 in at this point with Katrin O'Hara, Eric Dean. I mean, my God, man. There are so many. But God rest their souls, and God rest Mr. Chuck Norris. But I'd like to know, what was your favorite Chuck Norris movie? Or was it Walker, Texas Ranger? Was that your favorite of Chuck Norris? I would love to know. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, don't forget about YouTube, ladies and gentlemen. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to movie goodness here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me as we reflected on the life and career of Chuck Norris. Want you all to know that I love you, continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.